Hello, Simon from Marineware. Today we're going to talk a little bit about maintenance, care and upkeep of our spray guns. Here I have two of the marine industry specific C-Spray guns. They're DeVilbiss guns. The care and maintenance for these guns is the same as the Advanced HD, but it's also the same as most spray guns. They've all got the same amount of equipment on it and much the same advice. Those of you that are lucky enough to have automatic gun washers will automatically load your spray gun into a gun washer. Having said that, I'd still recommend that if you're not going to use your gun for a while afterwards, and that's often the case in the marine industry, that you do strip the gun down to a certain amount and make sure it is properly clean before you put it away. And you can spend a lot of time trying to get a spray gun working, and just putting it away properly, cleaning it properly will help you do that. Interestingly enough, biggest reason we replace spray guns with customers is because they've not been well maintained. Most of the technical guys at Marineware have their own spray guns in the back of the car, and they've had the same guns for a very long time, just because they're very well maintained and cleaned. Let's start off with one of the things that really does cause us quite a lot of troubles, which is the air cap. This is the air cap on the front. This one is a CVT air cap, but it doesn't really matter which air cap it is. And often the holes in the front of this air cap can get blocked. Now, if we look at the horns, which are these two bits that stay here, they're vital for giving us the spray pattern that we want. So if you let paint build up in them or block them, they will cause you trouble. On the market, you can get spray cleaning kits, which have got a number of different brushes, very small brushes that will fit in to clean out these holes. If one of these holes is blocked on one side, we then end up with a spray pattern, which is curved, a banana-shaped spray pattern. So not good for a good finish. Now, the holes at the front of the air cap, okay, they're there for a couple of reasons. They help with the air and fluid atomization process, but they also are there to help keep the front of the air cap clean and free of paint so it doesn't block while you're spraying. Also quite important to keep those clean. In here there is some sealing rings and some parts in there, so by all means give it a soak in some gum wash or cleaning solvent after you finish spraying, but do not leave it in there. In fact, while we're talking about that, within these spray guns, it doesn't matter which one, there are lots of seals and packers to stop air and fluid leaking into the wrong places in the gun. And often we see spray guns broken down and left in a pot of gum wash or solvent, and it slowly eats the seals. So then next thing we get a phone call saying, oh, my gun leaks air, or my gun leaks paint and things. And it's because people are breaking them down and leaving them in a high strength solvent. By all means, give them a soak and then clean them, dry them and put them away. The next important part of the spray equipment is the fluid tip, okay? We should always try and, when we finish spraying a big spray job, take that off and make sure it's clean. To do so, first of all, I have to take the fluid needle out. To do that, on the back of the gun, okay, we can take the screw and take the screw and the spring out. If you pull the trigger, the fluid needle will come out. Another area where paint can get built up on it. And it's really important that this stays clean, because if it does not sit neatly on the back of the fluid tip, the gun will leak or drip paint when it's in use. Now we can take the fluid tip off the front. With all DeVilbiss spray guns, they come with the correct spanner to do so. You often see these fluid tips all rounded off because they've been used with loosely fitting adjustable spanners. There is the right spanner in the spray equipment to do that. Be careful when you're putting these back on not to over tighten them as well. Another important part of this spray gun and this equipment, there's the fluid tip, is the baffle. And this is the baffle here. If you start tightening up the fluid tip with gorilla type strength, it's not required and it will crush that baffle. So the fluid tip, and this one here on the C-Spray pressure gun, is a 1mm fluid tip, so quite a fine hole on top, obviously used for a top coat setup on that one, and it has the matching needle. And the needle comes in and out and blocks the fluid tip to stop paint coming out when we release the trigger, and comes back and lets paint flow when we pull the trigger. Very important that it sits. They've been very carefully machined to fit together. So if we leave old paint on the front of that, or old paint on the inside of the fluid tip, dripping paint will also affect our fluid flow. Another common thing to see is these needles are bent, so look after them. If they're bent, they don't pull away from the fluid tip evenly, gives you another odd-shaped spray pattern. So again, you can give them a little bit of a soak if you want to. In the fluid tip, there are no seals in that part, so you can give them a good soak and a good clean out, and make sure there's no paint stuck on the back surface there. Same with the needle. After that, in most of our gun cleaning process, we need to check the passages here, okay, in the front end of the gun to make sure there's no loose paint hanging around in that place. Again, with a gravity gun, we obviously need to make sure that the pot is clean at the end of every job, but worth taking the pot off and checking the fluid flow passages through here and behind the air cap fluid tip to make sure they're clean of paint before we put our gun away. Everything else on the gun is a sealed unit and shouldn't really need any more maintenance unless there's something wrong with it. So at this point, we can check our guns clean, the fluid passages are clean, we haven't got any paint dripping around the place or drying, and we can check everything's all ready to go for next time we spray, put our gun away. Any of these other parts are all sealed units. So if we have to replace them, we can. And if you contact Marineware, you can get an exploded drawing to show you how to do it. You can get the spare seals and the spare parts. Contact one of your technical reps if you need to get more into the gun than that, and we'll help you with it. Again, on the airflow is the same. This is a sealed unit in here. Can be removed and replaced, but again, I wouldn't suggest you break that down for cleaning. Once we've got all the component parts of our gun clean and tidy, we can put it together. Don't forget the baffle. Make sure it's fitting into its little hole, because if it's not in there, you will damage it as you do the fluid tip up. Fluid tip. Common thing you often see with all spray guns is the fluid tip not tweaked up enough. That will give you fluttering in the spray pattern, and will also push air back into the pot as well. So always make sure they're nipped up. But again, not really tight. You do not need to wind this up really tight. You'll only damage the baffle behind it. So just sneak it up tight with the spanner. That's all that's needed. Okay, we can then put our needle, nice clean needle, back. You can feel a little bit of resistance as you push it past the seals, which stop the paint running out the back, in with the adjuster screw. Interesting point, if you just wind the adjuster screw up, so the fluid tip rests up against the back of the trigger when the trigger's pulled, then your gun is zeroed and ready for when you take it out next time you spray. Replace your air cap, and there we go. Gun's back together, ready to use, clean and tidy.